What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet another album review for you. Surprisingly, there was still some really cool stuff for us to go over this late in November, and, well, I mean, there'll be some other stuff too, but this week had some interesting releases, and one that I really wanted to go over because I haven't really touched base with this band in a while. So we are going to go over the latest offering from Aeternus, Philosopher. This also comes out on the 17th of November on Agonia Records. This band formed in 1993 in Norway. This is their 9th album overall, and here comes the whole refamiliarizing thing with this band. I only know their first 2 albums. And So the Night Became and Beyond the Wandering Moon, both of which I really like, and both of which are more straightforward black metal, arguably melodic black metal. Apparently, this band has taken a hard shift to more blackened death metal in recent years, and I really haven't kept up with all their releases. So this was kind of a fresh take because this is the first time I've listened to any of their more blackened death metal stuff.
And once again, me over here, I've heard of these guys. I know I've heard of them in passing. I know that I've likely heard songs here and there, but this is the first full length I've ever listened to. I don't know if I had them confused with somebody else or whatnot, but again, I know I've heard them, but I'd never heard them until today.
I mean, they've been around for a while. I know that their guitarist / frontman Ares is the lone original member here, but it doesn't seem as though it has stopped him from accruing a massive amount of talent. And this is really, really good. And not that I'm shocked, but again, I know them for one sound in particular versus this, but this shift is kind of almost seamless.
Yeah, I turned this on in the car today on the way here and was instantly enamored with it. It sounds phenomenal. Huge production. Natural sounding drums, but the drums lie a little bit in the front, but I didn't get any clickiness out of them at all. It just sounds like maybe it's dialed in a little bit louder than everything else. Really crisp cymbals. There's some awesome background percussion going on. Chuggy, crisp, cold guitars, I guess, but rich, full layers of sound. Warm layers of sound, but they're cold.
Yeah. Temperate, maybe. I don't know. Like melting snow. I don't know. This album definitely has a kind of cold, gray, maybe damp vibe to it. It's very somber and very melancholy. And the production on here was handled by ex-enslaved keyboardist Herbrand Larson, and this was mastered by Darkane's Lawrence McCory. So you got 2 guys that definitely know what they're doing there, and this sounds just absolutely huge and massive. Those drums being up front, I like it when, they're kind of working on the floor toms, the rack toms, because they sound resounding like war drums. But it's the guitars on here that I absolutely fell in love with. They are so layered and just dense with melody.
Mm-hmm. The melodies never stop. Even from the very beginning song, Existentialist Hunter, you get a little thunder and lightning to set up the atmosphere, and then immediately dark melodic tremolo, and all of this atmosphere is created by just layers and layers and layers of melody.
And this song's got a riff. Right away, it's a nice mid-tempo start, which, generally I was kind of expecting something more up-tempo and kind of blasty early on because, a lot of bands kind of just open and go for the throat with the first actual track if we're not counting intro tracks. Thankfully, this band skipped the intro track. But it's a more mid-tempo, kind of almost kind of gothic stomp. Mm-hmm. It's got some chuggier, heavier riffs that are used as kind of an accent, kind of transition, but the song itself stays very melancholy and somber, and it's very driven by these riffs and the awesome vocals on here, which again, those have kind of shifted to more of a good, well enunciated roar. In fact, I would say Ares sounds a lot like Nick Holmes from Paradise Lost and Bloodbath. He's got a really just well pronounced growl. It's kind of gravelly, but you can make out almost every word he says. And the vocals, I think, are the thing that keeps this maybe a little bit more on the death metal side, because a lot of this music, I would say, is kind of a blend of melodic death metal and melodic black metal. And I would say the black metal sound kind of takes over just in terms of the production and the whole vibe and the atmosphere. But you also get some wrinkles that I really wasn't expecting, namely some really cool proggy stuff.
Yeah. World of Bleak Nepotism has a really like Opeth kind of vibe to it. A lot of dissonant melodies. They work in things like acoustic guitar and just like the overall structure of the song. Just it's always going somewhere, but it always goes somewhere different during the song.
And it kind of keeps the same pace throughout that, but it's all the stuff they're doing like to layer it. Like it has like kind of a mid-tempo sort of, groove that kind of just carries the song. But you get these really cool guitar patterns. And again, the layering on here. Like, it's not just like waves of dissonant guitars. There's also like acoustic melodies underneath those guitars, too.
The creme de la creme for me would be the song Void of Venom, where it has this really long intro where it's just super pretty. I mean, it's still dark and cold and rainy and, someone doesn't have a coat and they're freezing to death. But like
they can play guitar.
Yeah, they can really play guitar. Like this super long intro of really pretty acoustic guitars, and there's some harmonies, and there's like an acoustic melody lying underneath it, and like a little bit of acoustic tremolo going on, and then out of nowhere, jump scare. Blah!
Right into blast beats, machine gun riffs. Like it's one of the sharpest transitions on this entire album, and it just completely catches you off guard because you are being kind of like soothed and lulled into this beautiful melody. It's like, oh, everything's all right.
Almost like you're being like serenaded into a field with bunnies and flowers and
like someone rocking a baby and then they spike it like a football.
right. No more baby, blah.
And then someone calls the cops.
And something that I definitely wasn't expecting, because at no point in this record does it allude to the fact it's gonna do this. Everything drops out and then it comes in with like this sleuthy fucking like back alley bass line, and the drums come in and it's very just almost like a jazz groove, reminding me a whole lot of White Ward.
It's kind of noirish. Like I was kind of waiting for like a sad saxophone to come in there and just kind of find its way through the haze and the smoke of the dive bar that we've clearly descended into from the riff fest that preceded it. I don't get like the story itself, but I don't care because the destinations have been really cool and the execution is flat out amazing.
But it's the drum work in most of these songs that really bring home the fun. The drummer, for the most part, stays inside the pocket. Like, he never really ventures outside of the straightforward nature of his drum lines. Like, there's nothing that's off time, there's nothing that's off kilter, but it's what he does in the pocket that makes him so entertaining. And a lot of it are the verses in these songs, just these massive double kick blasts, just like non-stop, the most blazing fast double kick pattern with still just a simple ride and snare. But I mean, he really brings some flavor to the songs.
Yeah, and most of the time, like, especially in, I would say, like melodic black metal, melodic death metal, you'll hear, kind of just a standard like double time.
Yeah.
This one, he's just kind of kicking it up a notch, and it adds a level of intensity to this. Because I would say, like, a lot of this kind of hangs out in that more, like, somber, melancholy vibe. Like, there's definitely some stuff that is outside of that and kind of surprising at points. Like Resting Worm, while it opens up blasty, it's got cold, icy riffs, it still has some amazing melodies, but they're a little bit more sinister. As the song goes on into that sort of, like, mid-tempo kind of just lockdown rhythm that they have, it gets bright. It gets triumphant. Like, the melodies kind of ascend more, and you kind of get, like, called into action by them. Like, it's a totally different vibe than, again, a lot of this flat out, just kind of dark and dreary stuff that's on here. A lot of the stuff like that definitely, made me think of bands like Enslaved, especially, like, current Enslaved, Cloak, even though I think Cloak sounds a little bit more evil. Early Catatonia, too, and even like Thulkandra. They just have a knack for these layered, dissonant melodies, and it's not as though it's dissonance just used for atmosphere. It's dissonance used for melody. Like, these songs are flat out catchy and hooky. There's all sorts of harmonies all over it. Like, I was kind of blown away at the, like, just kind of all-encompassing, I would even say, beauty of this album, because it's very pretty at times.
Oh, yeah. The non-stop melodies and harmonies, again, like, everything's layered, but it's layered perfectly on top of one another, so you can still hear each and every layer as an additional dynamic piece to the song. They're huge songs. That's something really neat about this record. Like, every song isn't just basic like meat and potatoes melodic black metal. Like you're talking about massive productions.
But the songs also aren't necessarily that long. Like the longest track in here I think is just under 7 minutes. But a lot of this, like nothing goes over 10 minutes. Something gets too overly lavish. Everything kind of hangs out for the right amount of time. And for something that gets a little bit proggy, again, you kind of constantly have this good, steady, kind of gallop to it. Like it kind of moves at this good triumphant pace almost the entire time with, brief pit stops to either kind of calm you down with some like really lush melodies or just blast off and get your head banging. Like there's a lot of stuff going on here, and I really can't think of anything on here that just kind of put me off.
Not at all. There wasn't a single moment where I was like, man, this is dragging, or man, I wish they'd shut the fuck up with all the melodies. It was entertaining and it kept my attention, mostly because it's just always progressing into something really cool. Like towards the end of Carving the Pristine Anami, there's this really cool part after the bass and drum groove bridge where it's just machine gun riff picking, and everything is syncopated in that moment. The bass, the guitars, the drums, the vocals, everybody is working together to bring about this massive, syncopated, blazing fast, speedy transition.
Yeah, and I have to say this whole album flows beautifully. Start to finish, it feels very majestic at times. It also gets dark and sinister. It's a real journey of an album. And in case you hadn't already guessed it, I dig it. And again, a little bit different than what I'm used to from this band, but again, I haven't followed their career very far. So I think I'm going to have to look into more of their recent stuff because this is really good, and I'm going to go ahead and give it 4 stars. I think this is an excellent album. Across the board, melody. Just melody and hooks. It's still intense. It's still dark and sinister at times. It's still riffy. But melody is like the big thing on here. Like everything is so layered and hooky. The drum work is fantastic. I think the mix is solid. Granted, I do think maybe the drums are a little bit loud in the mix, but it's not going to ruin the experience, at least in my opinion. I like the fact that the songs are pretty concise too. Like there's nothing on here that I feel hangs out too long. Everything is just very well written, well constructed, well thought out. Yeah, this is just some excellent blackened death metal. I don't know, I still feel like it's a little bit more on the black metal side, and the death metal kind of just comes from the vocals. But either way, good music is good music. And if you're a big fan, again, of like, early Opeth, Enslaved, Keep It Kalessin, I'll throw that one in there too. We got Volcandra. A lot of just killer bands that know how to mix melody and, like flat out heaviness really well. Check this out. This is an awesome album.
And me, being that it's my first time actually jamming this band, I really just, like I said, I was instantly enamored with everything I heard. I'm going to go ahead and give it 4.5 stars. It's a banger of an album. I will likely listen to this nonstop. Once again, fuck my end of year list. Excellent song structure. Excellent transitions. Like, everything flows really nicely. It's all very catchy. Again, the melodies and the harmonies, they grab a hold of you so tightly. It's almost hypnotic at most times. It's sonically gigantic, non-stop catchy melodies. The drum work is fucking awesome. I loved every track. It was a treat to listen to. I could gush forever, but I'm not gonna. I would definitely recommend listening to this. If you're a fan of Opeth, Garia, White Ward, Paradise Lost, Enslaved, and a slew of other bands, this band does really well to emulate all of those influences while keeping their own sound. I would definitely recommend checking it out. I'm going to listen to it again when I drive home tonight. So, yeah, there you have it.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsofmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. It is also on our channel. But thrallsofmetal.com is where you go to get Thralls Metal stuff. We have t-shirts. We have new ones and old ones. The old ones are at a discounted price. And we even have some hats, too. So, go ahead, check it out. Link is down below.
And as always, we have a ton of stuff going on at Thralls of Metal. Even though we're approaching the end of the year, actually we're about to approach our 5-year anniversary here at Thralls of Metal, which probably wouldn't be as monumental as it is if it weren't for all of you guys. thank you to everyone that has stuck by us and still continues to tune in. And we see you guys at shows. You come talk to us. You've turned Thralls of Metal from a review channel into a family, and we couldn't be more appreciative of that. Thank you to all of you.
Yeah, you guys all rule. You're the real heroes here, because it's certainly not us. We're like kind of like NPCs and all this. But yeah, tons of content coming your way, so stay tuned for that. And once again, thank you all, and we will catch you later.